Good evening. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend and a nice Monday. Today the market slowly rose as the day went on. The Dow basically ended flat as it had a gain of just 0.03%. The S&P 500 gained a better 0.84%, but the Nasdaq resumed its surge as it posted a gain of 2.51%, as Amazon led the tech-heavy index upwards. According to an economist from S&P Global Ratings, governments may be seemingly forced to increase their spending in order to support both households and businesses into next year. Recently, we have seen large countries who have already offered a lot in terms of fiscal support beginning to consider cutting back some of their stimulus. This is not a good course of action, according to the economist, as he said, quote, "We're seeing some fiscal policymakers think about pulling back some of their measures or maybe letting them expire without renewing them. That's quite a dangerous thing to do when demand in the rest of the economy still remains quite suppressed." End quote. He did go on to say, quote, "So we expect and we hope to see some of those fiscal measures being renewed, pushed forward into the next year. That is going to mean more fiscal easing, but at the moment there is no alternative to that." End quote. Although more fiscal action would reduce the quality of balance sheets for countries, it is beginning to seem necessary to prevent things from becoming worse. S&P Global Ratings expects global gross domestic product to shrink by 3.8% this year, which is worse than the 2.4% contraction it previously projected. In acquisition news, it appears that Chevron will be buying fellow oil company Noble Energy for $5 billion to be paid in all stock. This deal is the largest deal in the U.S. energy sector this year, and comes after oil prices hit historic lows in April. Prices remain cheap compared to historical levels, which has made oil assets cheaper. Chevron clearly saw this as a prime opportunity to buy good assets at a low price. Noble's assets will expand Chevron's presence in the DJ Basin of Colorado and the Permian Basin across West Texas and New Mexico. According to Chevron, this deal could potentially save them $300 million per year and will add to the company's free cash flow and earnings per share in about 1 year after the deal closes. Former Federal Reserve Chair members Bernanke and Yellen are questioning the roles of hedge funds and their involvement in the market downturn during March. In an essay, the two claimed that the Fed was forced to take action on the market downturn due to a massive amount of selling made by hedge funds during the outbreak of the pandemic. They said, quote, "Although risk and liquidity premiums in these key markets have returned closer to normal, at some point the Fed and the Treasury will need to review why the market-making facilities in place before the pandemic hit did not work more efficiently." End quote. Even with the purchasing of corporate bonds and getting into direct business lending, the two argued that the Fed needs to do more. They mentioned that one thing the Fed could do is continue to ensure stability in banks, but their recent actions of restricting share buybacks and limiting their control over dividends is not enough. The two said, quote, "Although banks are currently strong, it is possible the pandemic will so damage the economy that credit losses mount rapidly. For a successful recovery, the banking system must remain strong and able to lend." End quote. The rising demand for airline travel has taken a hit due to the rising number of virus cases, delays in reopening states, and quarantine orders for cities such as New York, according to data from the TSA. In the week ended July 19th, 4.65 million people passed through checkpoints at U.S. airports. This is down more than 4% from a week earlier and happens to be the first weekly percentage drop since April. The CEO of Delta Airlines said, quote, "Demand has stalled as the virus has grown, particularly down here in the south, across the Sun Belt, coupled with the quarantine measures that are going in place in many of the northern states. Those two factors are causing consumers to pause." End quote. In foreign news, the United Kingdom announced that they have suspended their treaty with Hong Kong due to rising tensions between the UK and China. British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab accused China of, quote, "clear and serious violation of the UK-China Joint Declaration and with it a violation of China's freely assumed international obligations." End quote. Beijing has denied violating international law and has accused the US and UK of trying to destabilize the region by meddling in Chinese affairs. Rob also said that the UK will not reactivate this treaty, quote, "unless and until there are robust safeguards which are able to prevent extradition from the UK being misused under the new national security legislation." End quote. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Wang Wenbin said that Britain should avoid taking further steps down the wrong path. The Supreme Court shot down an effort made by Democrats in the House of Representatives to speed up the process in which they will be able to have access to President Trump's financial records. This attempt was made by Democrats so they would have the potential to have access to the records before the presidential election in November. The Democrats were in the news again today, as their top two Congress officials warned that Congress, quote, "appears to be the target of a concerted foreign interference campaign," end quote. They said that this campaign, quote, "seeks to launder and amplify disinformation in order to influence congressional activity, public debate, and the presidential election in November," end quote. We know that both Russia and China have attempted to meddle with elections in the past. It'll be something to watch as we continue to get closer to the month of November. Bank of America said that a Democratic sweep in 2020 elections could potentially lead to a rally in the stock market. For this to happen, Wall Street would need to view this unified government as a step forward for fighting the pandemic and easing U.S. and China relations. Some may question this as Democratic nominee Joe Biden wants to raise tax rates. Bank of America had a response, saying, quote, "Biden has called for greater support for the middle class to be offset by higher income and corporate tax rates. But the risk of tax increases derailing an already struggling economy may drive a softer stance, while stimulus to combat COVID will likely play a larger role." End quote. There were multiple positive pieces of news of potential coronavirus vaccines today. BioNTech and Pfizer released additional data on their potential vaccine. The data showed that it was safe and triggered an immune response from the patients. On top of this, another potential vaccine, this one made by Oxford University and AstraZeneca, has been able to produce promising immune responses in their large, early-stage trial. The researchers said the vaccine produced antibodies and killer T cells to combat the infection that lasted at least 2 months. Oxford professor Andrew Pollard said, quote, "The immune system has two ways of finding and attacking pathogens, antibody and T cell responses. This vaccine is intended to induce both, so it can attack the virus when it's circulating in the body, as well as attacking infected cells. We hope this means the immune system will remember the virus, so that our vaccine will protect people for an extended period." End quote. The vaccine was found to be well tolerated, and there were no serious adverse events, according to the researchers. The WHO even had praise for the data released by Oxford University and AstraZeneca. Dr. Mike Ryan, who is an executive director for the WHO, said, quote, "It is good news. In generating T cell responses and generating neutralizing antibodies, this is a positive result. But again, there's a long way to go. We now need to move into larger scale real-world trials." End quote. Today, President Trump finally seemed to have a positive view on wearing face masks. He said in a tweet, "We are united in our effort to defeat the invisible China virus, and many people say that it is patriotic to wear a face mask when you can't socially distance. There is nobody more patriotic than me, your favorite president." End quote. Hopefully this will light a spark for United States citizens to wear masks, as wearing a mask has been widely viewed as a political statement by groups of citizens. It is clear that tech and consumer services had the best day, as they really had no competition, with each sector being up near 2.8%. Multiple other sectors had very poor days though, as basic materials, oil and gas, and utilities all fell around 1.4%. Large cap and mid cap growth gained the most, as tech companies led the way upwards today. Small and mid cap value stocks had another rough day. The best performance in the S&P 500 came from Amazon, as they had their shares rise by 7.93%. This large day for the already ginormous company comes after both Jefferies and Goldman Sachs gave Amazon a price target of $3,800, which implies 28% upside. Citrix Systems, which is a company that provides various software services, had shares gain 7.64%, as Barclays upgraded the stock to overweight, previously being rated as equal weight. They raised their price target to $180 per share, which is up from the previous target of $135. Barclays sees Citrix Systems succeeding due to, quote, higher industry growth for longer, end quote, which will lead to the company having more free cash flow. The worst day came from healthcare REIT Health Peak Properties, which had shares fall by 5.24%. It is not clear why the sell-off occurred, but many REITs were punished today, as it seems that money is rotating back into tech names to start the week. United Airlines fell 4.69% today, as domestic bookings in the U.S. are beginning to decelerate, as was previously mentioned earlier in the show. Airlines report earnings this week, and there will certainly be names to keep an eye on. Getting into earnings, we'll start off with Halliburton Company, ticker symbol HAL, which is a company that provides a wide variety of products and services to the energy industry. Halliburton had mixed earnings as the company beat non-GAAP EPS estimates by 17 cents, as they finished the quarter with a gain of 5 cents per share. Revenue was down a dismal 46% on a yearly basis, but only missed estimates by $150 million, as Halliburton finished a quarter with revenue of $3.2 billion. Do note that operating income was nearly $200 million higher than what was expected. An article from Seeking Alpha said, quote, Citi analyst Scott Gruber says the quarter smashes expectations, given better margins stemming from cost-cutting. And Wells Fargo's Christopher Voy says Halliburton's EBITDA beat was significant, with analysts especially praising the company's Q2 free cash flow of $456 million, which is more than double expectations, end quote. Investors were obviously pleased, as shares ended the day up 2.52%. Next up, we have IBM, ticker symbol IBM, which is the well-known technology company with focuses in blockchain technology, cloud computing, AI, and security intelligence. IBM posted positive earnings, as they recorded a double beat for the quarter. IBM beat non-GAAP EPS estimates by 9 cents, as they recorded a gain of $2.18 per share for the quarter. Revenue was down only 5.4% on a yearly basis, as the tech company recorded revenue of $18.12 billion, which beat estimates by $400 million. IBM CEO said, quote, our clients see the value of IBM's hybrid cloud platform based on open technologies at a time of unprecedented business disruption. We are committed to building, with a growing ecosystem of partners, an enduring hybrid cloud platform that will serve as a powerful catalyst for innovation for our clients and the world, end quote. Although net income was down 46% on a yearly basis, investors were pleased with the performance, and shares are up around 6% during after hours. Next up, we have Lennox International, ticker symbol LII, which is a company that produces climate control products such as air conditioners and heaters. Lennox had positive earnings this quarter. Non-GAAP EPS topped estimates by 26 cents, as the company ended the quarter with a gain of $2.97 per share. Revenue came in at $941.3 million, representing a decline in revenue of 14.4% on a yearly basis, and beat estimates by $34.8 million. The company's gross margin did take a bit of a hit, but Lennox did raise their guidance for fiscal year 2020 earnings. This added some more positivity to the stock, and shares ended the day up 2.79%. That is all that I have for tonight. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you all again tomorrow.